I never thought I'd tell this story. For 63 years, I've carried it like a stone in my chest, heavy and cold as those endless nights in the Ardennes forest. But I'm 87 now, and the doctors say my heart won't last another winter. My grandson keeps asking about the war, about the medals gathering dust in my drawer. He thinks he wants to know. He has no idea. It was December 1944, and I was 24 years old. Just a kid from Nebraska who'd never seen snow like that. The kind that doesn't fall gently but drives at you sideways, angry and relentless, turning the world into a white hell. We were part of the 101st Airborne, holding the line near Bastogne during what they'd later call the Battle of the Bulge. The Germans were supposed to be finished, beaten. We were supposed to be cleaning up. Instead, we found ourselves surrounded, outnumbered, freezing to death in trenches that became our tombs. My squad consisted of 8 men when we dug in that first night. By the third day, we were 5, then 4. The cold killed more men than bullets in those early days. Frostbite turning fingers black, hypothermia stealing the fight from even the strongest soldiers. We burned whatever we could find, huddled together like animals, and waited for orders that never seemed to come. Private Danny Coleman was 19, fresh-faced, always talking about his girl back in Boston. Sergeant Hayes was our rock, 32 years old and tough as railroad iron. Then there was Jimmy Kowalski, who could make you laugh even when your toes were falling off, and Private First Class Samuel Washington, the best shot I'd ever seen and the only black soldier in our immediate unit. The Army was still segregated mostly, but combat has a way of making those distinctions meaningless. When someone saves your life, you don't see their skin color, you see a brother. Sam had saved my life twice in the weeks before we reached the Ardennes. Once in France, once in Belgium. I owed him everything. It was December 22nd when it happened. The day started like all the others. Bitter cold, intermittent shelling, the distant sound of gunfire that never seemed to stop. We'd been ordered to hold our position at all costs. The Germans were pushing hard, trying to break through to Antwerp, and our little stretch of frozen hell was apparently important to somebody sitting in a warm office somewhere. Around noon, Sergeant Hayes gathered us together. His face was grim, more worried than I'd ever seen him. "Battalion says German patrols are probing our lines," he said, his breath creating clouds in the frigid air. "They're looking for weak spots. We need to be ready for anything." "We're always ready for anything," Kowalski muttered, stamping his feet to keep the blood flowing. "Doesn't mean we're prepared for it." Hayes almost smiled at that. Almost. The shelling intensified around 2 in the afternoon. We huddled in our trench, heads down, praying that the next one wouldn't land directly on us. The explosions were so close I could feel the concussions in my chest, rattling my bones, making my ears ring so loud I thought I'd gone deaf. Then, suddenly, silence. It was eerie, that silence, worse than the shelling in some ways. We knew what it meant. They were coming. "Positions!" Hayes barked, and we scrambled to our firing steps, rifles ready, eyes scanning the white landscape ahead. They came out of the snow like ghosts, gray uniforms blending with the winter landscape, at least 24 of them, maybe more. We opened fire immediately. The noise was deafening after the silence. Men screamed. Bodies fell. The snow turned red in patches, steam rising from the warm blood. We held them off for what felt like hours but was probably only minutes. Then they retreated, regrouping in the tree line, and we caught our breath. "Everyone okay?" Hayes called out. We all answered. We were alive. For the moment. "They'll come again," Sam said quietly, reloading his rifle with practiced efficiency. "That was just a probe. They're figuring out how many of us there are." He was right, of course. Sam was always right about things like that. The second attack came just before dusk. This time, there were more of them, and they'd brought up a machine gun position. The bullets chewed up the frozen earth around our trench, forcing us to keep our heads down. I heard Danny scream and looked over to see him clutching his shoulder, blood seeping through his fingers. "I'm okay," he shouted, seeing my expression. "Just grazed me." But I could see it was more than a graze. The blood was coming too fast. The attack lasted longer this time. We were running low on ammunition. Hayes was coordinating our fire, making every shot count. But we all knew the mathematics of the situation. We couldn't hold out forever. Then something changed. The German fire slackened, and I risked a glance over the edge of the trench. They were falling back again, but not in retreat. They were taking cover, preparing for something. "Incoming!" Sam shouted, and we all recognized the whistle of mortar rounds. The world exploded. I don't remember much about the next few minutes, just noise and chaos and the taste of dirt in my mouth. When I could think again, when the ringing in my ears subsided enough to hear, I realized the trench had partially collapsed. We were buried under a mixture of snow, dirt, and splintered wood. I dug myself out, coughing, and took stock. Hayes was dead, killed instantly by a direct hit. Half his body was just gone. Kowalski was unconscious, bleeding from his ears. Danny was still alive but trapped under debris, unconscious and barely breathing. Sam was on his feet, already pulling Kowalski free. "Mike," he called to me, "help me get them out of here." But before I could move, I heard voices. German voices, close by, too close. Sam heard them too. Our eyes met, and in that moment, we both understood. The trench was compromised. They were coming to finish us off. We had maybe seconds to make a decision. There was a small dugout about 15 feet away, mostly intact, concealed by a fallen tree. If we could get there, we might have a chance. But we couldn't carry everyone, not fast enough. Not with the Germans already on top of us. "Go," Sam said quietly, nodding toward the dugout. "Take Kowalski. I'll get Danny." "Sam, there's no time." "Go," he hissed. "I'll be right behind you." I grabbed Kowalski, threw him over my shoulder, he wasn't a big man, maybe 140 pounds, and ran in a crouch toward the dugout. Every step I expected a bullet in the back. My heart was hammering so hard I thought it would burst through my ribs. I made it to the dugout, pulled Kowalski inside, and turned back for Sam. What I saw froze me in place. Sam had Danny over his shoulder and was moving toward me, but the Germans had reached the trench. There were 3 of them, rifles raised, shouting at Sam to stop. He froze, slowly lowering Danny to the ground. They were going to capture them or kill them. I couldn't tell which, and I don't know if there was really a difference at that moment. I had my rifle. I had a clear shot at all 3 Germans. I could kill them maybe, or at least give Sam a chance to run. But then more Germans appeared, at least a dozen, maybe more. And I realized that if I fired, if I gave away our position, Kowalski and I would die too. We'd all die. And for what? Sam was already captured. Danny was barely alive. The mathematics were clear. So I did nothing. I watched as they took Sam prisoner, watched as they roughly searched him, took his weapon, bound his hands. One of them kicked him, and Sam stumbled but didn't fall. Danny, they left, unconscious, bleeding, probably dying anyway. They had what they wanted, a prisoner to interrogate. Then they were gone, melting back into the forest, taking Sam with them. I stayed in that dugout with Kowalski for 6 hours, not moving, barely breathing. When night fell completely and I was sure the Germans had moved on, I checked on Danny. He was dead, had been for hours probably. I dragged Kowalski back toward our lines, firing flares, praying someone would see us. They did. We were rescued just after midnight. Kowalski survived, though he never fully recovered from his head injury. He died in a nursing home in 1987, his mind mostly gone by then. And Sam? Sam was listed as missing in action, then later as killed in action when witnesses reported seeing prisoners executed by SS units in the area. I wrote the report. I told them how Sam died heroically covering our retreat, how he held off the Germans while we escaped, how he went down fighting. I made him sound like a hero because that's what he was, just not the way I described. They gave him a Bronze Star posthumously. His mother received it at a ceremony. I was there in my dress uniform, and when she hugged me and thanked me for trying to save her boy, I thought I would die right there from shame. I told myself I'd made the right choice, that saving one life was better than losing all three, that Sam was already captured, already lost, and that getting myself killed wouldn't have changed anything. I told myself these things every day for 63 years. But here's the secret I've carried since that frozen trench. I don't know if any of that is true. Maybe I could have saved him. Maybe if I'd fired, created enough confusion, he could have run. Maybe the Germans would have retreated under fire instead of pressing forward. Maybe, or maybe I was just a coward. Maybe I chose my own life over his. Maybe the calculus I did in those split seconds was about survival, not strategy. Maybe I let my brother die because I was afraid. I've played that moment over in my head 1,000,000 times. Every Christmas I'm back in that dugout, watching through a gap in the fallen tree as they take Sam away. Every time it snows, I'm 24 again, making the worst decision of my life. I went to college after the war, became a teacher. I got married, had children, grandchildren. I lived a good life, by most measures. A long life. Longer than Sam got. I tried to find out what happened to him. I wrote letters, filed requests, searched through records. The official story is that he died in captivity, probably within days of capture. The SS wasn't known for treating prisoners well, especially black prisoners. But I never got confirmation, never got closure. Part of me has always wondered if he survived, if he made it to a POW camp, if he lived to see the end of the war, only to come home and see that nothing had really changed, that the country he'd fought for still saw him as less than human. I never told anyone what really happened, not my wife, not my children, not the army. The lie became the truth, repeated so many times that even I almost believed it. Sam the hero, Sam the martyr, Sam who died so others could live. But I'm dying now, and lies seem like a luxury I can no longer afford. My grandson Tyler is 22. He looks a little like I did at that age. Same sandy hair, same earnest eyes. He wants to join the military, wants to serve his country like his grandpa did. He looks at my medals and sees glory. He doesn't see the weight of them the way they've dragged me down for decades. Last week, He asked me directly, "Grandpa, what was the hardest thing you did in the war?" And for the first time in 63 years, I told someone the truth. I told him about the frozen trench, about Sergeant Hayes and Danny Coleman and Jimmy Kowalski. I told him about Sam Washington, the best man I ever knew, who saved my life twice and whom I abandoned when he needed me most. I told him about the choice I made or didn't make and how I've never known if it was right or wrong. Tyler listened without interrupting. When I finished, when I'd finally let it all pour out, when I'd shown him the ugly truth beneath the medals and the hero stories, he was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Grandpa, you were 24 years old in hell. You made a decision in seconds that you've questioned for decades. Maybe you made the right choice. Maybe you didn't. But you survived, and you've spent your whole life trying to be worthy of that survival. Doesn't that count for something?" I didn't have an answer for him. I still don't. But I'll tell you this. War isn't what they show you in the movies. It isn't glory and heroism and clear choices between right and wrong. It's chaos and terror and impossible decisions made by kids who should be worrying about girls and cars and what to do with their lives. It's frozen trenches where men die for reasons they don't understand. It's watching your friend get taken away and doing nothing, because doing something might mean dying too, and you're not ready to die. Not yet, not today. It's carrying secrets that weigh more than any medal, that dig into your soul deeper than any bullet wound. I don't know if Sam would forgive me. I don't know if I deserve forgiveness. I don't know if there's a heaven or a hell, but if there is, I hope Sam is in the former, and that somehow he understands that I think about him every single day, that he's never left me, that he's been with me through every moment of this long life I've lived, and he didn't. The secret I kept from that frozen trench isn't about what I did. It's about what I didn't do. It's about the moment I chose to survive instead of fight, to preserve instead of risk, to live with shame instead of die with honor. And the worst part, I'd probably make the same choice again. Because when you're in that moment, when death is that close, when the mathematics of survival are that brutal, you don't think about honor or heroism or how you'll feel 63 years later. You just think, I want to live. Please, God, I want to live. Sam didn't get that choice. I took it from him when I hid in that dugout and let the Germans take him away. This is my confession. This is the truth beneath the hero story. This is what war really is, not glory and medals, but impossible choices and lifelong shame and secrets that freeze in your heart like that long-ago winter and never, ever thaw. I'm 87 years old and I'm dying, and I'm still in that frozen trench, still watching Sam get taken away, still doing nothing. Some wars never end. Some wounds never heal. Some secrets never set you free, even when you finally tell them, especially then. Michael Johnson passed away on February 14, 2008, 3 weeks after recording this testimony. At his request, this account was sealed for 10 years and released only after his death. His grandson, Tyler Johnson, did not join the military. Instead, he became a social worker, helping veterans cope with PTSD and the aftermath of war. He says his grandfather would have approved.